a choice that faces us as a state. What do we want New York State to look like under the Trump presidency? Do we want a New York State that marginalizes our immigrant communities?
No!
Do we want a New York State that sends a message of fear and division that seeks to put them in the shadows? Is that the kind of state that we want?
No!
Or do we want a New York State that is inclusive of our 4 million immigrants, that seeks to protect our undocumented immigrants, and that extends a welcoming hand and engages in common sense policy that's good for all New York? Is that the kind of state that we want?
Yes!
We believe in moving New York forward no matter what. We believe in progress. Empowering undocumented immigrants with driver's license is not just about the countless practical benefits, and it's not just about delivering common sense policy. It's about doing what's morally right at a time when New Yorkers are literally living in fear.
In economic terms, that's good for car salespeople, of course, but it's also good for employers who can count on people being able to get to work. And it's also good for local economies, as people with access to transportation can find a better match in the economy. How much will it cost? Actually, expanding access to driver's licenses will pay for itself. Looking around the country, as my colleague Sierra Roldan did for an analysis we did earlier this year, the cost of licenses in New York is relatively high at $64.25 is the sort of standard cost. That's sufficient to cover the cost of testing and licensing. It's also not surprising. That's a general principle of New York government, is that fees should cover the costs of providing services.
Throughout most of New York, a driver's license isn't a luxury, it's a necessity. That's why yesterday I introduced new legislation that is real ID compliant and will allow the DMV to issue a driver's license regardless of your immigration status. And this would include that applicants will still be expected to meet the same high standards that typical driver's license requires. They will still have to establish proof of identity and age in the place of a social security card. Applicants can use a sworn statement under the penalty of perjury stating their identity. Simple tasks like getting the grocery and picking up their child from school or going to work are a struggle without a vehicle. And even in New York City, with one of the largest subways systems, there are still transit deserts and long indirect routes to neighborhood locations otherwise closed by car.
A pesar de que somos trabajadores responsables y comprometidos con nuestro trabajo,
even though we're responsible and hardworking, committed to our work,
queremos contribuir con la economía del estado y de la ciudad.
We want to contribute to the economy of the state and the city.
Y todos los beneficios que vamos a tener nosotros también es para todo el estado.
All of the benefits we will receive will also be benefits for the rest of the state.
Y también por el tiempo que llevamos trabajando aquí.
And also because of the long time we have been working here.
También tenemos familias y queremos beneficios para nuestras familias.
We also have families and we want benefits for our families.
Porque nuestros hijos, como ciudadanos de este país, tienen derecho a ser educados con respeto y dignidad.
Because our children, as U.S. citizens of this country, have the right to be educated with dignity.
Y nosotros, para ser unos buenos padres y buenos trabajadores, necesitamos contribuir con su educación.
And for us to be better parents, we have to be able to contribute to their education.
The 150 drivers expected to sign up in New York City alone would generate $9.6 million to the state of New York and $1.3 million to the MTA. To all levels of government across the state, $57 million would be generated yearly statewide and an additional $27 million in one-time revenue to the state. The $17 expected to fall off of insurance premiums a year makes all the difference to workers living paycheck to paycheck.
In New York and in America, we do not reject people based on who they are and what they look like or where they come from. This is simply the right thing to do. So I joined with the New York Immigration Coalition as a city controller to say that this makes economic sense, this will help the economy, but most importantly, it will help children and families, whether you're undocumented or not. And we should take the lead, especially in these very, very scary times. The more people are licensed, we estimate that families would purchase some 56,000 cars in New York City alone, generating more than $20 million in vehicle and gasoline sales taxes for the state and city.
Algunos años atrás, por la imperiosa necesidad de obtener una licencia,
A couple of years ago, because I was so desperate for a driver's license,
fui víctima desafortunadamente de dos fraudes.
I was a victim of 2 frauds.
Dirán ustedes, después de tantos años, ¿por qué se sigue acordando y mencionando este acontecimiento de su vida?
You might wonder why I'm still bringing this up now.
Porque este acontecimiento hizo sufrir a mi familia y a mi persona.
I share this because this was a very traumatic moment for myself and my family.
Imagínense ustedes trabajar 2-3 semanas y el dinero de ese, o el fruto de ese dinero vaya al bolsillo de defraudadores.
I lost the wages from a couple of weeks of work to the people who defrauded me.
Me prometieron y me ofrecieron licencia para conducir. Yo no tenía, en esta situación en la que vivía, no tenía licencia.
I wasn't able, I didn't have a driver's license at the time, and these people told me that they were going to help me get a driver's license.
Uno de ellos afortunadamente terminó detrás de las barras.
One of them is now behind bars because of what he did to me.
El otro posiblemente ande todavía por ahí.
The other one is probably still around, disappeared, but could be still around doing the same thing to other immigrants.
No soy el único que ha pasado por esto, pero lo que me quedó de la experiencia es que mi familia sufrió dejé de darle yo alimento a mis hijos.
I wasn't the only one who has gone through this. Many others across the state have. And one of the main lessons for me was that it actually ended up hurting my family. I struggled to feed my family for weeks because I lost so much of my wages.
My family immigrated to this country when I was 6 months old on tourist visas, and we overstayed our visas, and then that's when we became undocumented. I grew up in Florida, Lakeland, Florida. And I remember every morning I would wake up for school in high school. My mom, she would be rushing around getting everything ready, for school. And then, I would witness the change my mother would undergo the second she was behind the wheel. And I'm sorry to get emotional, but I think when we talk about our moms, it's emotional. My mother risked deportation every morning to take me to school. I was able to get to college. I was able to go to Sarah Lawrence because of the sacrifices she made.
A program is only as effective as it is trustworthy, and this bill ensures that the information applicants provide can never be used against them. And we must ask ourselves, do we give in to the prejudice and bigotry of this Trump rhetoric, or do we push back and make our state a sanctuary for all who want to contribute to the greatness of New York?
Cuéntenos bien.